Like, ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? Ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? Ayy, coming down like precipitation. I ain't never met a limitation. Hater plotting my elimination. Gotta go to Google for the information. I'm a superstar, so I gotta shine. Top dollar be the bottom line. Bottom feeding niggas out of line. Turn your heart rate to a dotted line. Yeah, my zodiac probably dollar sign. Got the energy to win it, my nigga, I'm feeling great. Got a date with destiny, focusing on my fate. I don't give a fuck what you rapping, you been a fake. I'm everything that they ain't, it can't be, it won't be. Wanna see me fall, I can't go, I won't leave. Coming from the block with plain clothes and police. Straight up to the top with bankrolls and rollies. Ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? Ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? Ayy, 12 can't really stop shit, so I'm still pushing like a mosh pit. Ice dripping, think I'm hot shit. In a yellow bucket with the mop stick. I've been jugging jams like wholesale. Everything must go sell. Hitting bitches with the old well. Need 100 million on the low scale. On my worst night, I'm the best nigga. Wouldn't mess with you, couldn't cap to him. Homie spotted me like 700, brought 1100 right back to him. If I can't do it, then it ain't real. I just make dollars, I don't make deals. I've been going hard in the paint, still blowing cush clouds till I can't feel like. Ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? Ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right?
And welcome everybody. Oh, I'm blown out. But I'm Halfling. We're here with Winter Vanquisher League. I'm joined by Golden Cat. How's it going?
Going well. Happy to be here, of course. So we are in Vanquisher League, which means the introduction to the league. This is, of course, Masters 100 cap for Titan Esports in general. There is another one, but that one's completely off stream. So this will be the stream to follow for any Masters 100 cap gameplay for the next basically 2 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess 3 months actually, because of playoffs as well. So you know, stick around every Tuesday. You got these kind of level of games going on, and today we do have a pretty nice match here just to start us off with Flash Syndicate versus TMG Paladins. Um, Flash Syndicate historically last split they did end up getting 8th place, losing to actually their sister team, which is not in this league. So we'll see if that's going to change the tide just a little bit. And then on the other side, we got Paladins, familiar face for some, but does actually have a completely overhauled roster. There's only one common player from last split, which is, of course, Cone. So going to be pretty interesting to see the adaptation there. But hey, glad to be here, ready to start up another split for myself here in Vanquisher. So, yeah.
I'm new here. I'm happy to have a very experienced guide to kind of bring us through the entire season. And we're going to pop it straight into this draft. The big things on the patch, of course. You mentioned kind of before getting in here specifically nerfs to Malphite from 16-2, not really enough, in your opinion, as well as Jace going to be a contested pick there. So we're going to kind of run through these bans. Looks like they're both going to kind of target those like junglers, as well as I still think Echo's a flex, but it's your ball now.
Yeah, mostly, we're gonna see a lot of junglers and mid laners. That's generally been the priority across the whole globe here in for esports. A lot of early pick mid laners. We got Azir, Orianna, Ari, things like this. These are like the standard. Okay, this is what we can rely on. But there are a lot of very powerful champions. Jace is one. Obviously, much more mechanically difficult to actually execute since it's a poke champion, and that's always been something that's pretty difficult. You also got Rumble, but it looks like we are going to be leaving both of those champions up, so they are available to be played here. And Bessa will be the ban out, so that does allow for a bit more tank play and kind of lower priority on Renekton. So I'm curious to see if we'll just see a Rumble lock in immediately, since there's not too many kill lanes into Rumble, but we are going to be seeing Varus. So Varus, another thing I didn't touch on, but this is a flex pick. It could go into the top lane or into bot. It's actually one of the strongest top laners on the patch, just the biggest lane bully possible. Of course, you are still Varus, you can get exploited in that way, but just taking it off the table as a potential flex pick is definitely a great first pick to actually lock up. And they're going to pick something that goes well into Varus, but if this gets flex top, Sivir really doesn't have that great of a laning phase to actually be able to contest anyone else, so going to be pretty interested to see if that actually pulls through. And then we got Jarvan, standard engage, can't go wrong.
Don't mind the Jarvan. He gets to kind of flex around into very many different team comps. If you fall into the trap and pick a lot of lower mobility stuff like the Varus, leaving him on his own, that does force him kind of into the bot lane. You need a little bit of help. So I do like this adaptation. Swap to the Cassandra, you are kind of inviting that Rumble matchup that you teased at earlier. It's not impossible to play, but it is difficult. It's very hard, even up here in Masters 100, let alone even at the very tippy top. We see players mess up all the time, so you don't really want to leave yourselves open to that. We're going to see Rel and Karma coming through on the supports here. Sivir, Rel, little, I'd say kind of vague
Dicey
on what they like
phase.
to do. Yeah, it's a very dicey laning phase, especially when you look at who you're into. That's very possibly could be a poke Varus. I wouldn't like it, but it very possibly could be a poke Varus. Otherwise, your Karma is going to be hammering home. I love Karma into Rel. It's such a free laning phase. I definitely think it could have been an Alistar instead of Rel, and you probably would have been a little bit of a nicer spot, but other than that, not too bad. Junglers kind of getting taken off the table. Wukong still has presence, not as OP as we used to see the Monkey King, but still very good. Jace off the table, and Camille going away, making sure that this Cassante has an easier laning matchup.
Yeah, I talked about high prio mids, but we've dropped all the way to this final last couple picks here. So, Azir, Orianna, Akali, these are all champions that are very powerful. Talia as well, of course, for that roaming factor, which does kind of invite something like this is kind of counter picking for that Rise potential, since that is also a very good champion. I'd be shocked to see Shogath.
I'd love him.
Still good in the top lane, but we are going to be seeing Malphite jungle. So that's actually a great lock in here, since so far not too much AP damage present, but there is still that threat of Rumble in this last pick slot, which I think could be pretty lethal at this point, especially with that Ahri now getting locked in. Very classic Ahri Talia matchup. I mean, this is a tale as old as time. And finally leaving that counter pick for the top lane here. You know it's Cassante. What do you got? Garen? I mean, you could, but we're gonna go for the Sylas.
Sylas is open, Malphite's on the table.
I mean, you don't respect it, that's what's going to happen. So just going to be that Sylas lock-in finally. And that's going to be a little bit scary for your kind of later game team fights. But, you know, it is whether or not Flash Syndicate's actually able to find engage. They really should because they have that Jarvan Rel, of course. But, you know, if you're too far behind a Varus Karma in the bot lane, there's still a chance you may lose those fights given the kind of circumstances that you have, and always diving past a Malphite is not exactly an advisable thing. So I think it's still going to be pretty dicey for some of these later game fights, despite how good it looks for Flash Syndicate right now, and they have to survive this early game.
Yeah, you have a very tall order to deal with on that Sylas, and I'm gonna assume, okay, there it is. Going to be top lane into that Cassante specifically leaves it like the possibility where Cassante could come out on top, but it's very hard, not quite as hard as the Rumble, but still very hard. And it gives Sylas this opportunity to kind of see Malphite a little more, grab that ultimate around level 6 to level 8 or so, and just kind of auto win a 1v1. We know how powerful this is. Everyone's talked about it up and down. We all made faces when we saw the pick. So it's a tall order here for TMG to really make it through, but you mentioned a good win condition for them. Hammer home on bot lane, kind of leave and scheme away from the Sylas, scheme away from this Jarvan, and empower what really is going to work, because if you're not going into 3rd and 4th dragon with 3,000 gold, 4,000 gold or so, kind of confidently in the lead, you're really going to struggle in those team fights. You're going to get 2-man ulted. With the Stolen Malphite ult, you're going to have to deal with Weavers while cutting up the fights. You're going to have to deal with that just massive engage coming on through. The follow-up could be a little weak if Flash Syndicate doesn't time it well, though. You look at their damage coming through, and it can be very good. Sivir bounces do damage. Talia has the possibility for damage, especially around 2 items, and Sylas can have damage, but they're not exactly the tankiest squad in the world, and if you're able to weather that storm, it's going to be a very tall order, even through that Sylas kind of counter pick here for Flash Syndicate.
Yeah, and, you know, I also think Ahri Talia is kind of Ahri favored now, especially with some of the buffs that Ahri received in the last patch with her W cooldown going down by a second. Doesn't sound like a lot, but that really does affect her kind of lane pressure she can put in. She can use a W at the start of the wave coming in, and then Talia, you can then trade at the end of the wave with it again. So it's actually quite powerful, and I expect this champion to come out to quite an early lead. So a lot of lead towards the bot side of the game, of the actual game here. And, you know, whether or not the Jarvan is active on the map early on is going to play a great factor here for Flash Syndicate. But with that, we're going into game 1.
Going into game 1, nothing too shocking. I was seeing some people talk about, at least like newer people kind of talk about, oh, that Electrocute Malphite's kind of weird, but I don't think so at all. Even just kind of being a little outside of the know-how. It sounds so good. It gives you so good burst, and obviously we're going to see that there. But another big call that I like is the... God, why can't I remember? Phase Rush. There we go. I'm going to skip on some stuff. It's been a long day for me, but I swear I'll warm up. But the Phase Rush on the Talia is going to kind of give you that ability to play around that 1-second W reduction that you mentioned on the Ahri. You have the ability to proc that movement speed and really match that. Otherwise, do I need
visual
to put on my
artifacting?
glasses?
There's some weird visual artifacting. We'll try and get that fixed as soon as possible. It is very strange. Okay, I think there you go. Just like that. Ooh, snap of a finger. But here we go. So start of the lane here on the bot side. I do expect some heavy trading from Sylas, but Sylas is one of those champions. If you waste your cooldowns early, you could still get punished, even by a champion like Asante. So I'd look up there towards that level 3 mark, especially since that's generally when Asante gets to kind of start playing the lane for the most part. And on this bot side, I mean, Karma Vera should have a great time in this lane. Did miss a Q here. That will cost some HP here, so doing their best trades that they possibly can, but really it is going to be very favored for them. We are seeing top lane towards the top lane clear here for the Jarvan, just to make sure that Sylas can actually win that lane, and then Malphite pathing towards that bot side. And they have a perfect idea of this happening, since there is that red ward on that Raptor pit for the blue team.
That's going to kind of call into response what TMG does specifically bot lane. Not necessarily on... They're doing it right now is just not necessarily contesting, understanding that it's not your job to really find the priority right now to make plays. And it's something that I always see people struggling to do, is accepting that I'm a Sivir and I really am not supposed to do anything right now. So I'm happy to see that, and happy to really kind of see them working on making sure their HP's high, making sure they've got mana to trade back if the possibility arises. Because you've been seeing Oprah Winfrey already try and find these angles, and I'm very happy to see that they're not just sitting back and taking everything for free. But you do kind of have to do it, though. It's the nature of the lane. But already look at that Varus mana, already below half, already starting to kind of really have to think specifically about what abilities do I use and how I use them. But it's not the end of the world yet. The poke is still effective. The farm looking about even across the board, but going to see that one top side really start to get away from Cone if they kind of stay this passive.
Yeah, we are going to be seeing just a full clear here for both junglers as well, so nothing too crazy or out of the ordinary. This is, of course, setting up for the legendary now 5-minute 50 crab. Junglers call it the game-ending crab, since whoever gets it basically hits level 6 to just invade the enemy jungler. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see if that actually is going to be a contest point. And it's always scary with that kind of thing, since it is a objective that is random. You know, it could show up on the bot side where you have this Varus Karma, or it could show up on the top side where you have a Cassante. You know, we're really just going to have to wait and see for that one. We are seeing a bit of an invade here just to kind of scout out where this Malphite's going, but just going for another full clear back-to-back. So going to have some pacing here to actually be able to clear faster than the Jarvan on that side. But I do expect Jarvan to do a pit stop towards mid again in just a little bit, since Talia is getting pushed in after this immediate recall here.
Just little bits of poke. You can see that man is getting away, but looks like TMG starting to get away. And hold up, Batman took a tower shot. Axis just gonna get solo killed by Code. Oh man, that's not what you want to see on your counter pick. Up farm got a little too I mean, the nice corporate way to call it is proactive for their own good.
Yeah, typical Cassante. You're near your turret, or you're near the opponent turret. Yeah, you gotta respect anything that he can do to you. So, unfortunate death there. Didn't commit a flash and still had that TP to be able to get in another shove here. So not going to be the end of the world, but giving over that 300 is not going to feel great now that that Negatron cloak is secured for the Cassante. There was actually a game where I believe it was C9 Thanatos was playing Cassante and ended up on double vest, chain vest, and double Negatron cloak, and was just unkillable. So we'll see if that's going to be the inspiration here or not, but Cone should be feeling pretty good about this lane now.
Well, kind of, if I got time, Cone's actually keeping the aggression up. Batman's going to grab the ultimate, looking to try and go all out. Both of them going in kind, but it's doing way too much damage from Cone. They're forcing the flash from Batman. This Cassante, as you mentioned, has that Negatron cloak. It's just too hard to stop.
Yeah, this is getting kind of dicey here. Jarvan's still just full clearing here for both sides. Malphite, of course, very happy. Hey, we don't have to do too much. It will be Scuttle spawning on that bot side, but most notably here, you're seeing Malphite path towards that top side. So this should be a free level 6 here for the Jarvan. So, you know, goal achieved. Let's see what Pleb is able to do on the map as a response, since you kind of want to find something, but this is a level 5 Malphite. It's not exactly going to be that simple. Ari now trading in mid lane, but there is a Rel here.
The Rel is here mid. They're going for a top lane at the same time. Can Ultimate make it out of here? Terry trying to continue, but here's the J4. Can he Spirit Rush out of there? Stun's going to land. Good from Open Winfrey, keeping this Ari locked up in a shove. Sends Ultimate into their death alongside a flag and drag there. Top lane didn't amount to anything either, so really good play here from TMG.
Yeah, great collapse there. It was a little scary there with the flip coming out without the actual E coming down from the Talia, but still able to secure that one. Now we have, you know, just a little bit of a free objective here for the side of Flash. Wait, yeah, Flash Syndicate. I believe we have the logos reversed. Tripped me up for a second there, but yeah, pretty good. nonetheless here.
Too bad. Dragons, I feel like those take longer. Sorry, I've been, like, touching grass. I'm sorry, the best way to say. I haven't really been paying attention too much. During the off season, I thought, let me get surprised, and then I heard that 550 crab. And that's what I mentioned. Like, I'm back at home because I grew up in like this season 8 coin flip at 230 crab or FF, and I'm happy to see that it's back because honestly, I kind of liked that in a weird, sick, and twisted way.
I do think it does shift up your like draft strategy. Like you want to like I think they had a problem where the previous couple seasons like scaling was too good. So having these kinds of like super volatile objectives that really do change how you play is important for actual draft priority and what you actually value in the game. So I do like to see a kind of change like that. And
So
I don't know if it'll get toned down. I imagine it will, considering it's such a big focus in pro play. But
I'll give it a couple weeks, maybe even all the way through first stand. They always like to. I feel like they should be taking the Dota approach and letting teams trying to figure out their own little counters. But it is a big deal when your game essentially can just end if you lose a bad enough fight that early on in the game. So they'll probably make some little kind of fine tuning to it. But other than that, they've got the supports here moved up. Some things never change, and that's grub fights. Just looking to try and set them up, but not a great angle here for not important open rim free, but they're trying to make their way in. Neither support's level 6 either, and there's the Malphite ultimate. It's just a wombo combo onto poor Terry. Gonna fall, not important. Trying to cataclysm a way out of here. Able to flag and track through using Fortress Door, but still Oprah Winfrey has to flash over the wall on that rel, and not too much you can do here. The body's in the favor of Flash Syndicate, or TMG, my bad, as they're just pushing forward. No, not important. Doesn't have any HP to work with. It's Grubs. All in favor of Flash Syndicate. No, don't continue this fight. Cone, you're out of mana. You have to go. Thank God. Ooh.
Yeah, that was a good call there by TMG. You saw immediate just snap engage since the Silas was still pushing in that top lane. Cassante had the push, the priority to actually join up immediately, and Pleb just goes for it. And of course they're going to be rewarded since they're lacking a Malphite of their own at that specific moment. So far looking really good for TMG. I will say the bot lane not as heavy of a lead, but I think it's just a lot of respect being shown here by Lian and Oprah. So makes a lot of sense to actually see them, still kind of duking it out in the bot lane. But I do expect a bit more attention to go towards them, since you do want this Varus to get off the ground, since it is one of the strongest champs on the patch. We see just a bit more trading here. This is actually a pretty decent recall timer. You won't have that cannon wave to just back it up, but since the wave is so pushed up, Varus won't have an easy time pushing this, but they are going to cancel and maybe look for a bait play. But the Malphite is already here in the bot side with the ultimate online as well.
Keeping up the pressure, both junglers going to kind of go face to face here around this kind of middle of the pack crab. As we're starting to kind of get closer to the second dragon. You can see both teams do want to get it up. You've got the grubs here for TMG, so I would say with Refrain that it's not that important if you get the dragon. It'd be really nice. You have this Varus, you really should go for it, especially since the poke Varus, you are going to kind of fall off a little bit towards the end of the game. But they're pretty squishy, so it'll be fine. The big thing is you want to try and make use of this big burst, especially on this reset here. Reaper could stop this and just barely unable to. So more gold going into the items, but nothing tier 1 yet going to affect this fight.
So far, nothing, out of the ordinary. I really do think this is a pretty passive game, which I don't know if I think is the right strategy. I would expect a little bit more movement from Ultimate in particular, just since Ahri is allowed to kind of move on the map a little bit more freely in this patch. Is going for a pretty interesting build here with the Faded Ashes is basically the first purchase here in this one, so prioritizing the push more than anything here, just wanting to match the Talia's kind of pace on the map. Cone is going to get a nice freeze here. So Batman, I don't think can walk up anymore. With this Kanik Rickrun already completed, that is a very scary Cassante. We do have not important. Trying to bail Batman out of this lane just to be able to get the push through. Cone will clear enough of it.
But here is the Malphite. Got locked up pretty well. Lian gonna burn that cleanse first, but holding onto the spell shield really well. And now it's just giving Terry a little bit of an opportunity. He has the Weaver's Wall, but just trying to find some damage right now. That arrow's starting to do some damage. The shove going to go a little wide. Just some prediction coming in. I don't think it even hit me, but it happens. It happens to all of us.
Yeah. This is now going to net them a dragon, though, because they did waste a lot of decently important cooldowns there in the bot side with not very much kind of benefit here, so it will go the way of TMG. So they are going to stop the stacking that Flash Syndicate would be going for. So yeah, it's looking pretty good, I think, for TMG. We were talking about, okay, they need to establish at least a good early lead, and yeah, they had to give that first Drake due to Malphite trying to go for a play earlier on. Now we have ultimate going in.
Here's that Spirit Rush. It's going to put way too much damage to poor Terry. You have to respect that, but there's not a lot of time either. It's just honestly a really good play from Ultimate here. On to Terry, going to catch him a little asleep at the wheel, and
yeah, sleep at the wheel is definitely what I'd call that. Definitely not showing the respect necessary to Ahri in the current day. Just using the worked ground, I don't know, the E ability there, kind of with reckless care. So just gets immediately jumped on one of the driest solo kills. But, you know, this is an early on game. They still have multiple games, so I don't expect too much more at this point. Oprah could here cancel this, but I'd be a bit careful here. I think Varus is at the point where you could just about one-shot someone with a combination of the Karma, so gotta play a bit careful. We'll cancel the Karmas back here, so a little unfortunate, but at least the Varus goes back. But that does mean that they do have some time to hit the plates, which, of course, hey, new mechanic. Every turret has plates. Did not explain that, so you always get incrementally rewarded just for being able to shove in a wave with the opponent laner not in the area. So it does kind of change up how you want to play these lanes, where sometimes you do want to sack a good back timing just to be able to hit a plate and get the 160 reward gold that you do get from those. So, you know, curious how it'll go. We haven't seen as much split push champions as you kind of expect with that kind of change, but it's now just a extra gold injection earlier on in these games.
I saw that first quest complete there coming in, so maybe Ultimate Spatula can make use that has those upgraded boots now. And the Lucidity ones were on the better side from my understanding of like the kind of tier 3. I kind of use that word lightly because they're barely a little bit better, but they're one of the better ones, so hopefully we can see Ultimate Spatula really make use of that. Otherwise it'd be a little unfortunate that mid lane gets the tier 3s, and everyone was making comments about it when it first came out, but oh,
hey, at least they're not just removing another item from the game, yeah. You know, another mechanic just gone. So they are going to keep it to some degree.
It was going to be really scary.
Middle of nowhere. Not going to get spotted out though, luckily. So they'll just be able to survive this one, and this could be a Varus because Karma is nowhere to be seen. So I really do think this is their chance to kind of go for a play, but you have to be careful. Those Chains of Corruptions is actually down. I didn't even notice when it was actually popped here. So this is actually a potential dive angle.
It's possible here. Can Hexify get out of there? And that's a third coming, but you cannot get out of the Magnetic Storm. That Varus is just gone. Well done from Oprah Winfrey there to tank that up, but now the play's going to go on not important here. Sending the Cavalry, trying to go for more, and a good charm's going to land there. PL3B is going to find that. The Pleb making their name heard onto not important as well.
Yeah, very nice setup charm there. Going to be rewarded with even more plates here. So this is an Ahri to a really big early lead here. Terry's going to have a very hard time in the side lane when these lane assignments shift at all. So got to be pretty careful. Did go for the Archangels first, so just opting for the survivability more than anything, and relying on those boots extra stats. But this is, of course, a defensive option of the boots, so curious to see how it goes. See Batman.
Batman? I'm not sure what you're doing here. Trying to stay as tanky as I can. Flashing over to Pleb. Gonna grab that ultimate. Has it. Trying to keep the CC chain going on to Comb, but look how little damage this Cassante is taking. Going all out. Gonna miss the W, but continuing this assault on Oprah Winfrey, able to get over the wall. Continuing their play in chains for Batman. Gonna miss on the re-engage. Not important. Flashing over the wall. Picking up Fortress Door. And a good slam down with that. Cataclysm is just keeping poor old Flash Syndicate locked down forever. As Kona's going to continue this fight onto Oprah Winfrey, but finally taken out by Batman. A little revenge coming in as Some work is being done here by the Paladins.
Overextension there from TMG. The fight was so won. They got the Silas to actually commit the Malphite ult out, which is definitely not what you want to be doing there, but you know, they were able to get the re-engage just due to a little bit of an overextension here from Fortress Door, and they committed to the fight afterwards. No flash, no ultimate here for ultimate, and they're going to be able to grab a bunch of money there just to be able to kind of even up this one. They're actually now ahead just from the tempo of that, being able to grab up some plates there on the backside as well. And, of course, the investment here of the Rift Herald to be able to grab up even more gold in the future. So a pretty big play here to kind of flip what should have been a really good fight here for Flash Syndicate, or for TMG.
Yeah, I also caught that at the end. It's okay. But,
yeah. This is, you know, it's definitely getting confusing now. I'm like, okay, I know the logos are right. Okay, the names are wrong here. So we are going to be getting another Drake here for TMG. So just getting that stacking up. They need to get these to kind of, you know, force the game end soon enough. But it's, I think by the next Drake, there should be enough gold on the Sivir, especially, and the Talia as well, to actually be able to contest these pretty easily in a 5v5. They just need to, you know, dodge the initial engage of an Ahri and a Malphite, which is easier said than done.
Harry might be the victim of that, but here comes the teleport coming in from Batman, just trying to stop this play. Is going to work, but now you've left Cone alone on that top tower. As the play's going on to Hexify here in the mid lane, trying to get away from Open Winfrey and Leon, spending that ultimate pleb here. Faxify just going to flash across that Cataclysm, and you cannot move, good sir, as you are going to fall to Leon's hands, and pleb stuck in the wrong spot, trying to save the AD carry. The good guys never win here in this. It's a double kill for Leon.
Yeah. This is, now Flash is going to get feeling really good about their positioning, I'm sure. So, oh no, Terry. Committing the utility immediately. Oh no.
Oh no.
Has
Good
to flash.
And
Ghost. Oh my god.
Oh no.
It's a disaster.
Unfortunate. A little bit of an unforced error there, but hey, you're still alive, so we'll call Worth and move on to VOD review later on that. Laugh about it a little bit and keep going there. As mid-tier 1's going to fall through from that Rift Herald, and now Ultimate Spatula, not Spatula, that's the item, as they're just going to make the mistake in the shove from the crash down, keeping them locked down for a second, but a good charm pumping a little bit of damage here to Terry, going to pop that. Archangel's trying to move through with that bonus movement speed from the Ahri, but still staying locked down very tight by Oprah Winfrey. Is this might just be a done deal towards Terry on a killing spree. A little close, though.
Yeah, that's, you know, not exactly ideal. Both mid laners kind of overextending, but didn't have the summoner spells to actually kind of fall back on here. CV Batman does have that Spirit Rush here. Hexify has to be a bit careful. You know, the Silas isn't the most powerful, but still has to be respected, especially with the Spirit Rush, which does provide so much extra chase down potential. So, nice respect shown there. But this game is, you know, slipping away here from TMG when we talked so much about, hey, this is an early game composition. You want to find an early lead with the Varus, Ahri, and the Karma, which they did find some success in the mid lane. But the bot lane now, down in CS, down in gold, down in items even. This is definitely not what you're drafting Varus Karma for.
No, and especially when you look at kind of the way it happened, it really just kind of got away from you from two big plays, really, as the Sivir is just going to collect a lot of what was delivered to them. But that's the purpose of Sivir comps, is you really do feed the Sivir, give them a lot of gold, give them this opportunity to build those two really important items and just start carrying fights. Because now all of a sudden you're a tank Malphite to take Cassante running at a Sivir who has lots of peel. Those bounces are going to kill your squishies before your tanks even have an opportunity to make their engage. And that's really the big kind of difficulty with dealing with the Fed Sivir. Other than that, though, it's also just kind of rough situations turning worse here for TMG, is when you look at, oh, who's doing really well? My mid laner who really likes to initiate fights and kind of facilitate picks on the side, and
you
my
see that with
tank.
the build too. Cosmic Drive and...
Okay, I'm not going crazy. That is a weird build. Okay, I'm like, maybe things changed. That wasn't
No, those are definitely some... I mean, generally right now, I think Ahri is just straight up an assassin for the most part. Like, back to full burst with the Ludens and stuff, but surprised to see this kind of build, really trying to follow up on the Malphite mostly.
Oh, good trap here to Pleb, as that arrow is not going to do any damage. Chains of Corruption going to land on a not important, but the Cataclysm keeps going. Pleb locking down Leon for a second, but not doing any damage. Hexify is going to pop here in a second to not important. Leon able to make it away from the dive. Finally, double flashed on by the tanks, continuing the Pound Town through, but it's the crash down again, and Terry going on a rampage, and the TP from Batman. The signal has been lit, and they're here, but that's not the participant we've been looking at. Cone continuing to go all out in the backline, keeping Not Important locked down. Batman chasing down Ultimate on the offside, and Terry's going to go unstoppable, finding Cone as Batman's going to flash away from the tower, and Ari's starting to run down, but makes it out of the fight in time, and it's a Flash Syndicate just trounce.
Yeah, this is... I think the game has kind of gone away from TMG now. You need your Ahri in that fight. Definitely one of the strongest members in this one, and definitely the one who can actually kill the Sivir on the backside. You saw both tanks having to commit Flash just to be able to get on her, but also really good awareness here from Flash. You saw Not Important immediately engage on that Varus, knowing the Flash was still not up from that last play in the river, so able to just immediately ultimate onto Hexify, and good calls here from Flash is going to net them a good advantage here on this Drake, but there are not enough members here, so actually there is a window here for TMG to just punish and go for it, but it will be a fight nonetheless. But we're seeing the TP committed here. They have to find Lien or Terry on the backside.
Gonna find that shove onto Pleb, taking a lot of damage, but happy to do it, eating it, and Hexify is gonna get engaged on here from Opa Winfrey. There's no follow quite yet as the charm's gonna go into Not Important. Half HP, Chains of Corruption gonna miss. Big thing gone now as Pleb's trying to reposition, but they're away from the Varus. The team split across, and there's nothing you can do. Not Important sees blood and keeps it going, and Cone stuck. There's no rock there anymore. The rock is safely out of the fight here as Pleb might be looking for a steal, but so is Ultimate. They're going to find a charm here as Batman looked for a way over the wall, but a dragon towards Flash Syndicate. That stacking you mentioned needed to happen, and it's just been stopped.
This is, I think for the most part, this should be just Flash Syndicate in a very commanding position. You know, they're up 5k gold. They have an easy time just taking Baron here. And how are you contesting a Talia Sivir team with the wave clear you have on the side of TMG? It is never going to be easy for them, so they're gonna just have to look for a good fight, but as soon as you have your Malphite ult back up, guess who also has it back up at this point in the game? It will be, of course, that Silas.
No time to waddle in there. A good shove away by Terry makes sure that Pleb can't even get close to the corpse of the Baron. And that Baron buff, you mentioned the wave clear as a big aspect here for the Sivir Talia comp. Now you're gonna have to try and deal with their siege, and you've got Poke Varus as like what I would consider to be one of your better wave clear options. It sounds as weird as it is. It sounds as weird as it is. Yeah, it's dire straits. It's terrible. It's a terrible situation, just turning worse into TMG. Is there a way? I mean, this could be it. Terry's just going to be wandering a little bit in La La Land. Chains of Corruption going to land along with the charm, making sure they're locked down forever. Can't get the wall as Pleb's going to lay the trap towards Leon. Finally, a shutdown claim by Ultimate as another charm's going to find Leon. This might be the door. Oprah Winfrey trying to waddle away as best they can on the Rel, and somehow able to do it, but hey, progress.
Yeah, that was great from Pleb there, just making sure to hide, to bait the Sivir to walk forward to try and help that mid laner. Now, Not Important want to find something else on the map here, but Hexify has to go for the recall, so they are just going to back up here and kind of give up the jungle here.
On the Batman.
Yeah, Batman is just pushing mid here.
Close.
Dodged away on the charm, so no play to be found, but with those two sources of wave clear gone, you will just have to resort for potentially looking for a pick here on Cone. Should just commit the recall here, but is going to be walking backwards towards the opponent team. Kind of interesting positioning here.
Almost a smoke.
Yeah, blast Cone out. They will defend the red buff.
It's a moral victory, honestly. It's one of those feel good stories, right? You get the red buff for your team. Is it not shared anymore? Am I crazy?
Now it's not full team share. It's still just that one extra buff. They reverted it because Otacon's gone, I guess.
Is that what was caused? Was that the lore reason that was causing? I thought it was Baron. Weird.
Well, it is Baron, but no, they just peeled back a lot of those like team-wide buff stuff, I think, for the most part this season.
I am glad Otacon's gone, because
you don't want to see a flip at 20 minutes?
or teams ignoring it for another 10 because of the flip. No, I'm happy it's gone. I'm happy we're kind of getting into more of these situations where side lanes can happen and push can happen, but this is another trap. They're using their own play against TMG here as the blast cone's going to go, and Batman's finding some sort of an avenue into Fortress Door, staying sticky, but no one else is really there to follow the Weaver's Wall, making sure that Hexify is out of here. But now you're creating this flank angle?
Yeah, Cone just wants to be behind them. I don't know what it is, but just trying to find some sort of angle here onto either Leon or Terry. But, you know, even then, I still think Not Important's so strong that it's going to be kind of difficult to actually even push that advantage if you do find one of those two. This is
like their fourth
crazy disrespect.
And it's going to almost work again here on a Pleb. They have the ultimate, but can they get away? Good charm on Oprah Winfrey, keeping that engage stalled for so long. Pleb finally going for that re-engage as Ultimate's getting ran down by Batman. Here back to the top of the fight. Pleb's going to flash for the wall, falls to the Raptors. In the meantime, it's Fortress Door having to flash towards the enemy team. Cone trying to peel for Hexify as best they can, but that's a poke Ferris, and you're not poking anymore. It's last alive here for Cone. Ultimate's in the base. Cone going to flash away. Flash Syndicate have just demolished TMG.
Yeah, that kind of disorganized fight is just never going to work if you don't have your Cassante there immediately. The trigger was pulled on to TMG, and they're going to be suffering for it. Cone, last feeble attempt here, but not much to be found. Ultimate now, nothing in the tank. Going to get taken down. A clean-ish game from Flash Syndicate here.
A very, very clean game here. A little rough around the edges in the early game, but that's perfectly acceptable to them. They were planning on that. You have this Sivir, you have this Rolling that's meant to lose, and they were doing perfectly fine. Up mana, generally even with HP within about like 5 to 10 farm for the entire time. Really well played from him, honestly, and you can see that kind of reflected in the damage. Terry, honestly, being a little bit of a sleeper pick, you never really think of Tilly as being like your primary damage source here, but phenomenally played from them, especially after Ultimate just kind of laid down the law early.
Yeah, I mean, it was not looking good. Definitely made some big mistakes here from Terry, but still ended up finding the advantage gold-wise, and also, of course, damage-wise. So, you know, kind of picking up the pieces towards that mid-game, and you could see there, this is a team that's played together before. You saw their cohesion when it came to actually fighting. You know, they did get picked off in that top side, but that was more individual play than anything. So that's kind of the advantage they have coming into this one, where, you know, you look across the ranks, which still do matter, of course. So a lot of the players on the TMG side higher ranked as a whole than the Flash Syndicate side, but they've been playing together for quite a while at this point, so they have that kind of built-in synergy that they can kind of fall back to in a kind of chaotic mid-game like this one.
You saw that exactly, waiting for those plays. Part of that is that Otacon change I mentioned. You don't have another objective to really worry about. So what you're able to do is you're able to play around that lack of information. That deep vision they had to catch those flanks onto Cone was phenomenal, by the way. So kudos to whoever was really putting those down. And honestly, kind of like a silent performer, regardless, away from Terry, not important. 19 KP as well as Oprah Winfrey, of course, but not important. Really bridging their way into this game and putting down a lot of really good cataclysms, especially after my personal thoughts when I see you picking champions like J4 into Cassante into Malphite is like, man, you're going to trap your team. Not the case at all. Really well played from them.
Yeah, and it really does come down to I think they just needed to be playing lanes a little bit better if you're going to pick something that should win lane. So while I think Ultimate did a good job in lane here, but yeah, you really look at that Varus Karma, it is that is something that should be up 20-ish CS against a Rel Sivir, with all due respect. So we'll have to see if they actually adjust here for game 2, since I can't imagine they change up the strategy that much going into this one, but of course fearless, so you won't see these 10 champions in the next one, so we'll have to see what the adaptations ends up being.
And we will be seeing that here just after a short little break. Don't go anywhere, refill your water, grab some popcorn, it's worth it here. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back, everybody. We saw fun and kind of back and forth till the very end. Game one, and we're gonna be popping in here pretty quick. But Golden Gad, we were kind of breaking that down a little bit in the post, but now we can kind of share our thoughts a little bit more on what happened.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate you pick the early game composition and you just don't perform as well as you need to actually be able to secure that one, considering the differences in the team fighting strength in particular. So a little bit unfortunate there, especially considering how good of setup the Ari was in particular, and you had the Malphite on the map kind of making plays that probably should be illegal for a Malphite to make. So luckily, we won't have to deal with that anymore, but, some notable picks that didn't make the draft is stuff like Rumble. We saw both of these top laners kind of pick something a little more reserved. Okay, Silas, kind of crazy, but obviously there's a Malphite in the game. It does kind of change up those variables. So I do expect, Mbessa to still be banned in this one. They are switching sides here, so Flash Syndicate will be on that blue side here, so that does change kind of the priority in the draft here, since that will be first pick on that side. And now with stuff like Talia Ari gone, I could see the mid priority actually being realized, where you do see an early lock-in of a mid laner here, especially since Varus is gone. You still have some kind of very powerful flexes in the way of, some junglers that can also go into the top lane. There's a lot of that, such as Jace. But I was looking at some of these match histories. Jace not exactly the highest win rate for either of these junglers. Definitely not an easy champion to play, and this is the last day to play it at its full power, because it will be getting a pretty significant jungle nerf. But we are going to see Corki. I mean, safe 80 carry. It's the classic lock-in first pick that you can kind of rely on at this point. Corki can get bullied by Ezreal Karma, but since Karma's kind of taken out of the table, we'll be seeing Yunara here, just another solid team fighting 80 carry. And I expect some sort of enchanter. You could play it with engage, but we've been seeing a lot more kind of ranged bot laners here. Nico is another really strong support that you could rely on here that is ranged. And since Mbessa didn't get banned, it's going to be grabbed up here for Cone. So kind of discouraging some of the more aggressive matchups unless you want to lock a Renekton here.
It's kind of limiting a little bit of your options here in the top lane, and it's also kind of, I'd say, kind of pre-picking into stuff like the Rumble. If you're seeing it, you can deal with it. Going to be a Rise. I personally think he's a proper flex between top and mid lane. I know that's not popular. I know that's not going to happen in my wildest dreams. So it's going to be a lock-in for the mid lane there, and that's going to kind of invite something like that Galio there. And Ultimate was very happy to make plays, but just didn't have the damage to follow it up. So continuing on that pace, kind of unfortunately for them, depending on who you ask, but they're going to be even better at making plays and has the chance to do some damage, especially surprising someone like a Rise in the early game. The root doesn't stop the Justice Punch. And I do like seeing the Corki. I like that Nico call out as well. You can pick that with both 80 carries. Technically, Corki can just flip a switch and become super aggressive early, so I like that Pike ban. Keeping people off comfort here. Braum making sure that you don't get pelted, because you need some way to stop those Yunara autos. It does a lot of damage, and that Lulu taken off the table as well. Get rid of, I'm pretty sure, still like the premier enchanter.
For the most part, there has been some Janna play here and there, but I don't really believe in it as much. So we will be seeing an Ornn, which is actually really surprising to see here. They are saving that support counter pick, which I don't know if it's a correct decision. You're already playing Yunara into Corki, so I don't know if that's necessarily needed here. So we are going to be seeing Zahen. So this is a champion that really hasn't seen much pro play yet, but is still really strong in solo queue. It's that lane dominant. All right, I'm going to win my lane after level 3, so it's kind of like Camille, and then show up to team fights and do nasty stuff. But it will be the Nautilus Corki to lock it down here. So now I expect a very defensive ranged support here, if I had to guess, but there is already that Lulu ban, so it will be Renata instead, so something else that can kind of disengage there. It's not a Renata Zeri, it's not exactly the same, but it does kind of function in a similar fashion where you get to kind of get towards that mid game and rely on such a powerful ultimate as that one. Renata, of course, always does great into Wukong in particular, so that's going to be something that they can rely on towards that mid game. We do have Rise Galio. I was going to say this is like classic matchup you know, this is 2017 when Galio first got reworked. This was what you were seeing, Rise Galio. It is the exact same at this point. Basically, neither of these champions have changed much since then, besides Galio losing all of his fun tech. You know, they just like, oh, he doesn't need it. He doesn't need it. He doesn't need it. And now he's
I remember
as
when
basic as can be. Yeah.
I remember when Wings of War would one-shot squishies.
I mean, or you just flash W or W then flash. Oh, so cool.
God, I mean, I miss Top Flash, but it's honestly, it's a good thing that it's gone. The big thing that I'm seeing here from this TMG comp is that's a lot of trust on your AD carry specifically. Yes, I see the Mbessa, but in jungle we kind of saw the same thing, kind of last game where you do get that gold, but when you're on the carries like the Jarvan, like the Vi, and like Mbessa in this case, you pump damage early on, you hit 2 items, and you don't get to buy another thing until 35 minutes into the game. Your income's just not going to be high enough, so this is putting a lot of pressure here onto Pleb to really get aggressive, really put themselves in kind of not necessarily coin flippy spots, but in very risky situations, especially when you're dealing with you look at those kind of 2v2 kind of possibilities with Rise Wukong or Wukong Zehen. And that's very scary to approach, especially when you're looking at your laners as an Mbessa and it's Galio and Ornn. They have damage, they have CC, but is it enough to get the job done? You make one mistake, especially in that Ornn lane, and you're kind of just iced out of the game. Cone played phenomenally on that Kazante in game 1, so don't write them out quite yet. But I think this is almost harder, if not like genuinely harder of a matchup. You're gonna have to guide me through Zehen, honestly, because I agree we haven't been seeing him too much in professional. We haven't been seeing him too much in general. People are a little more apprehensive to this champion, and I think most new stuff has come out just because I don't even know why. I feel like he's intimidating.
I think he's an outplayable champion. Like if you're good enough, you can outplay as a hen. So he's one of those like champions in pro where he has to be kind of busted to actually see play, which is kind of like where Viego's at in my opinion. He isn't. Viego's also an inherently outplayable champion, but his ultimate and passive obviously makes up the difference usually. So that's kind of why we don't see him as much. But I will say here, for at least this game, I think it's an okay pick. But for the side of TMG, you have a very structured and solid identity. It's protect the Yunara and get this Mbessa to mid game where she hits her 1-item spike and is able to one-shot someone. That's kind of like what I'm seeing here. You have Galio, you have Ornn, these things that survive and can kind of provide that kind of diffusal of a bomb, like a Wukong, for instance, and then provide that time for the Yunara to actually start hitting. You know, you do have to be careful in the bot lane. Nautilus Corki could come out to a pretty big early lead if some of those trades go poorly, but I trust Lien and Oprah to actually be able to, you know, find some big openings, but I don't know if it's going to be enough to actually push through and actually take down Hexify and Fortress Door to actually be able to win this one. But I don't know. I still think it's a bit favored for TMG, but we saw mistakes in the last game for these kind of early game oriented comps. So just immediately going for some trading here. Mbessa, more of like a mid-game spike champ. You're kind of like super hard farming for that big mid-game power spike, but it's going to be interesting to see if it's actually able to get off the ground, since I don't think it's been as successful in pro. It has been picked a couple times here and there, but I think more of these carry junglers are oriented towards that Kiana instead, just since you have a more powerful ultimate in general, and it's a little easier to build a composition around.
The ultimate, I think, is a great shout out like comparison. You have this like big single out tool, and also like what Oprah Winfrey is doing here on in their positioning. They're taking control of the bush. They're making Mbessa and Yunara at least kind of guess a little bit about what's going on, and you can go for these fights, and you're gonna do a lot here. And that exhaust coming out immediately from Fortress Door just to stay alive. But now Oprah Winfrey's taking a lot of damage as Hexify is keeping up the fight. And something you do have to worry about is once that Yunara does get those stacks going on that Q, it's really hard, almost no matter at any point in the game. She's gonna be just difficult to take down.
Yeah, you can't let these trades go too long there. You saw the lethal tempo plus the passive just kind of pumping straight into that Nautilus there. Takes a lot of damage here. CB Batman just not afraid of trading here. Just goes for the E, doesn't even opt for the bonus damage, just wants to get a couple autos through. I will say Zahen also has a pretty annoying early game where some of your kit just doesn't feel that great. Oh, nice hook around the minion.
Good one to find, but a handshake to return. Oprah taking a lot of damage trying to get away, but you're too slow on that Nautilus, so getting punished even harder, and Batman keeping up the pressure. Cone keeping it very punishing. One more auto is going to be more than enough, but Zen's trying to heal a lot. Batman has to flash away. It's followed by Cone continuing up the assault, and it might be a foregone conclusion, but that Q is going to miss, and Cone now going to have to get away here. No mana, but honestly, lucky for Batman to live there.
Yeah, disaster averted there. If Ornn solo kills the Zahen, you're in a really bad position. But I was talking about how the champ kind of feels awkward to play because you don't get like when you're level 1 or level 2, you don't really have a way to auto queue kind of thing. Oh, Dryas solo kill. I said last game Dryas solo kill. That's the Dryas solo kill.
That's another one. I blinked. I blinked and I'm like, and I hear the clap, and it's just. There's
he was clapping a minion. He just spat on him low key. That man just getting taken down. Not important now. Gonna have to give up the crab because of that. And Pleb in a really good spot here. Gonna commit the TP. That means not important. Has 0 chance of getting this, and that's a double crab for Pleb. That's
good.
I mean, this is a disaster, to be honest.
Really good for Pleb. You mentioned has to get farming, has to get gold, wants to get to that mid game. If you can accelerate that as best as possible, get those 2 crabs. Big ups. The stock's looking green right now, of course, but I also think the levels are a little important too from Pleb here. Not important has that advantage that if they can get this clear going faster, they can get to level 6. It is much, much more valuable. You have that team-wide engage. You can really make a big play, especially on bot lane, and I think you really want to do that if you're not important, because this Yunara could become a big pain in the side.
Yeah, they haven't found too much action anywhere else on the map. It's just been a lot of dueling back and forth in this top side. Already the Bramble Vest completed. So a lot of that lane sustain that you expect from the Zahen, that is what makes him a good lane champion, is that sustain. It's just going to be a little bit hard to actually execute here. Nice bait out there. Does have Demolish, so Cone kind of has to always stick around just to deny any Demolish stacks. We talked about the plates a little bit, but when you have a more solo lane focused top laner like Zahen in particular, that's when these turret plates really do matter. That is some withstanding gold that does matter a lot. Pleb now walking towards that top side, no wards in the area. So CB Batman showing some respect, but this is not going to be an easy thing to get away from.
Oh, the Horn is sounded. Pleb trying to move through there. Knockup found in a flash. Pleb wants this. Smoke now, and Batman cannot get away. Pleb's going to take a lot of tower shots here, but still just barely enough in the tank to get away. So Oprah Winfrey wants to make a play bot lane here, try and find something, but Fortress Door and Hexify putting themselves in a really good spot here.
Yeah, a little bit scary there. Misses the Q2 for the Ambessa, so nearly gets away, or not gets away, but at least would have gotten a trade kill if that actually did come through. So a little bit unfortunate here for CB Batman, but that is the top lane experience. Once you get solo killed once, it's a snowball from there, and are you strong enough to stop it? Terry now also in a pretty decent spot, but this is a chill lane for Galio. Really nothing to worry about for the most part, so I mean, most lanes are chill for Galio, to be honest.
Are you like AP focused, or is that what you really should be building on Galio, especially in a game like this? Or because I feel like Kanik is just way too valuable, like on 1-2, and you kind of want that. See, now that I've been gone, is it Hollow Radiance still?
Yeah, it's Hollow Radiance would be that first item, which would be normally what you'd build. But I guess Ultimate's looking at the team comp, saying, I mean, we have a lot of damage, but not in the mid lane, so I guess just going for, I assume, a Proto Belt, if I had to guess, but...
So here comes the heroic entrance. It's not going to find a knockup, but gives a shield for Pleb trying to get away. Taunt used, trying to save him for a second. Good knockup, keeping in the Fall of Flash, going through. They've got that bailout, but Pleb can't find it. As Lean's going to pick up that kill, now flashing away Terry, a little scary. And that Fortress Door going to fall to Terry's hands. With that Ghost, keeping it up, but not able to get them under the tower still. Big positive play coming in from the Syndicate.
Yeah, able to pick up a bit of gold there. It was actually pretty close to actually being a null and void play there, due to some nice CC there from Ultimate to deny the kill onto Pleb immediately, but still comes through. Nice flash over the wall from Lian, just showing the confidence that you need to play Corki, and actually picks that up. And Umbra getting back canceled. That's actually pretty bad for the tempo here, especially if Fortress Door actually commits fully to just stopping another back. Not important now on the top side. They want to find Cone, but this is not easy. That is a, I don't know, 120 armor Ornn.
They're quite close to the tower, but the Ornhorn sound. Batman has made the bait. Can they find the kill? CC even going on through Cone, still staying alive, but here comes the knockups and the Cyclone doing way too much work on the Cone, and finally a little bit of a door here into the top lane.
Yeah, they did have to commit the Rise to actually get towards that top side, so Galio will be able to push the way, but, you know, the play was so fast where they baited the Ornn in a pretty bad position, so it's actually not going to net them that negative of a play, just a turret play going over the way of ultimate, but immediately kind of traded over back towards that top lane for CB. And, you know, crucially still up in CS here, despite how kind of rough that lane looks. So still feeling good towards this mid game, but scaling advantage and kind of team comp advantage, in my opinion, still going to TMG. So I want to see a little bit of a larger lead here for the Zehen going into the mid game.
That would be... Oh. See, I haven't looked at the scoreboard. I'm really bad at this. Where, like, I sometimes not look at the scoreboard for a good, like, 2 or 3 minutes, and I'll assume everything's all fine. And I just caught that Batman is 0-2. That's not a great situation to be in, especially. It's not the end of the world.
One of them was a jungle gank, so, you know, not his fault.
Yeah.
But look at the bot lane CS, though.
Exactly.
That's more concerning.
That is the other big concern I had, because I mentioned, like, yeah, you want to make sure this Ynar doesn't get out of control, but honestly, Leon is completely keeping it contained on their own, doing phenomenally. Actually, over 10 CS a minute, I think, at this point, just about. Yes. So, absolute demon on this Corki, and that's another mid-game champion you do have to be worried about. That armor shred really puts in work, especially when you're looking at the items being built across the board. It's really only armor going onto Cone. Everyone else doesn't really want to stack it, isn't going to find a way to deal with it too well, and that can become a very massive issue. This Corki is going to Gatling gun and auto you twice, and you're half HP, and those rockets are already putting in work.
Yeah, and you know, I do think that Leon and Oprah should have an advantage in this lane, at least early on, especially without that Renata ult online, but that's about to tick over and change, so curious to see whether there'll be some increased attention from the globals here from TMG to kind of force that issue. But right now we're seeing Pleb could go from a really long public execution here.
Oh, looking. And that's a good knockup, setting them up perfectly. And here comes the Ornhorn just to put some salt in the wound as Batman cannot get away. And won't be a pie game for them.
There. Yeah, max range there on that public execution. So just able to find the top laner again. So not exactly an optimal game here for CB Batman, but I mean, it's at least your bot lane's okay. So at least getting some gold onto the other carry that needs to be strong in the Mbessa is definitely something that you could kind of leverage here. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's going to be hard because even finding these Corki in the middle of these fights is going to be kind of hard. Since you really do need to kind of deal with things sequentially, and with Rise kind of pumping in damage at the same time, I could see fights getting kind of complicated. But Ornn should simplify it a little bit for that front to back, so I don't know. There is a lot of kind of unknown variables at this point because the game is actually extremely close.
I am shocked Oprah Winfrey just gets away with that right there. 99 times out of 100, you walk like that as a support, no 80 carry in sight, no vision, you're dead. Yeah, I know, I see the ward in the blue side, but that didn't quite pick up Mbessa at the time. It did pick her up later, so a good and effective ward. Just surprised that they didn't quite make it out, as the Dreadline's going to land, and they're continuing this fight, and Pleb is in the area. They saw that, and the Ark's going to catch out Lee and try to get away from the ultimate, and now here comes a flash. Oprah Winfrey's just sacrificing their life for Pakistan as no kill on the Hexify.
Yeah, it's funny. Hexify did commit the flash there, but I think if just times out the bailout well, could have just survived that one without really too much concern there. So pretty well played here, just to be able to get that return kill on an overextension like that. So TMG putting themselves in a good spot, but they're still kind of just even in gold despite the kill advantage. And Flash and Kit were able to grab up the grubs, you know, so there is trading going on across the map, and it's resulting in pretty even games. So, and with the Rise, and a pretty squishy Galio for the most part. It's going to be kind of more difficult to find some of these picks here.
There's another Ornhorn, and that might just be another death here. The knockup found again, and that is in fact another dead Zehen. Is this bad of a matchup, or is it just how the cookie crumbles with how far you get behind? You get to answer that question later. As Fortune Story is getting dove into the tower, not important now, getting a little too far, getting exhausted, has to flash now. There's a little more damage just traded away, but these teams itching to make some action happen.
I mean, this is just a classic. I don't know. I think it's just one of those games, you know. Hey, top lane, I flipped it, I lost, and we're gonna run it down a bit. So, well, now you got the Trinity Force, so the champ feels better. That's the one thing about Zehen. It does not feel that great without some CDR and some attack speed. So, surely by now it'll be more okay. But this is just, you know, armor stacking to the max here for the Ornn, and I think it's a really good time to play Ornn. It's pretty much just Ryze, and Ryze wants to pump into anybody else besides this Ornn. So I expect him to stay quite safe, but you know, it really depends on how they actually play these fights, whether it's going to be front to back or something a little bit more, you know, spaced out and kind of chaotic.
Be a way to do it. Typically, when you see carries like a Zehen, I mostly think of like Yone as like a great example of like a top laner that you can lose on and find utility. I don't really think you can do that on Zehen. To me, it's like the best thing you provide is the fact that you've got that tiny little pull there, and it's just damage. Is there like a split push alternative? Like, can you split push effectively, or is it like literally team fight 1v1 damage?
I think the best way to describe Zehen is he does better the more people are, if he's strong. Oh, hold that
Well,
thought.
here, speaking of strong, it's a really good public execution going on Leon in their backline. Has no mana, and Pled's going to be able to take that out now. They're trying to stay alive with the bail, but it's not enough, and the R coming in from Hexify keeps it going. Open Winfrey finally going to fall here. The shield's keeping them alive for a little extra second, but Ultimate Spatula chasing down with that flash taunt there. The new age one is Terry has to flash away just from the insane play onto their teammates, and TMG keeping the pressure up.
Yeah, that was a great fight there. They just find a nice angle there with the public execution. Shout out to Pleb. Just finds the angles, knows already it's going to be pretty hard to survive in that scenario. Snap engages. Galio's able to follow up very effectively with that ultimate. And yeah, just well played there. And going back to Zehen a little bit, since that was just a good collapse from the entire team for TMG. He really, you know, finds benefit. You know, I'm not
silence.
speaking.
Hold. Maybe?
Nope.
I was hoping maybe like if I didn't say anything, maybe we can see Batman live for a couple extra seconds. I
mean, he lived like 1 extra second maybe.
Sorry.
But maybe it's just a lost cause. Maybe I shouldn't explain Zehen at all because we may not have a game from Zehen here.
It's a bad example, and it's turning worse here to not important. They cannot get away from Pleb here. Taking the dragon, thank you very much for the leash, and the TP just to pour salt in the wound. Hopefully they look for something off of us. I hope the Herald, honestly.
Yeah, the Herald is up and for the taking, and they could really extend their gold lead if they are actually able to grab it, and there shouldn't really be too much of contest here considering non-important is down, but support line already drawn here, so does have a bit of an advantage as far as getting the wards down. But coming in second is not the worst, considering with these new Phaelites, you don't have to ward as many times to kind of take back some of that vision. So, yeah, I don't know how I feel about like Phaelite simplifying vision so much, but I get it was a pretty hard thing for newer players to kind of grasp about where to place wards, when to place wards, stuff like that. So Phaelites really does simplify that a lot.
Admittedly, vision line. I loved talking about vision lines and how to push vision and kind of like advancing game states through like one wave at a time and establishing new kind of pockets of information. But the Phaelites do kind of fast track us to fighting, and admittedly, fighting is the actually fun part about the game. Someone kind of described it best when talking about like WoW specifically, where like World of Warcraft is a very fun game to play but terrible to watch. Everything's going on up in your head. Vision is the same way. Everything's going on up in the supports and kind of junglers' heads, and sitting here kind of talking about it is fun the first 5 or 6 times, and then like you get to like the 15th game in a row, and it's everyone's kind of mush, and and waiting around for the real game to happen. So I'm happy for them first. But I do miss Vision. I do kind of miss it.
There are some very powerful non-Phalite wards, but that it's funny. Like people don't even have to think about it that much. Like unless you're in literally the top league in the world. Like what is a good control ward look like has changed with the Phalites. So it is gonna be pretty interesting. I mean, can Flash Syndicate find a way to actually find this backline? That is really the main question. Like, will the Yunara ever die this game? I'm not confident in that prospect, but if any team could do it against any other team, it would be Flash Syndicate with their kind of extra experience in their team. Lian now getting chased down.
I keep taking Drinks of Water at the wrong time, I'm sorry, and that is spelling doom for poor Lian here, who we mentioned how well they're farming doesn't save you from an Mbessa sprinting at you with that public execution, and that's going to pop that Herald now, and they're working to try and get this tower down. Not too many bodies here. You don't have wave clear, really. Yeah, you've got the Rise, but they're not online yet. They don't have that Rod of Ages stack. They don't have all the XP they really need. It's still going to pump some damage, still going to keep it up, but Pleb is keeping the fight going, and it's on to Batman here. As Pleb is starting to take a lot of damage. Now here comes the Galio, and now finding the knockup, and mostly just a fear tactic, keeping them away is a good taunt, keeping Batman locked down and looking for the fight engage. They want this, but Batman's just going to pop in a second here, staying alive for a little longer than expected. Now here comes Ultimate the Ornhorn, knocking up the rest of Syndicate. They can't get away from Pleb, they can't get away from Hexify, and Ultimate is reminding us that they're here. Triple kill for Hexify, as the eyes are setting on what can we do. It's 19 minutes into the game.
You know, with a scoreline like this, you wouldn't think Flash Syndicate would try and follow a play from Batman here. You know, there wasn't much to get the Zehen out, but they all die trying to save the Zehen. So it's a little bit unfortunate, because I think that really does push the game over the line, where I think you had windows to be able to win that one, but now with a full ace and full resets coming through, item power spikes and the likes, it's going to be much more difficult to actually find something at this point. It really does come down to whether or not Lian can find an insane team fight, survive the Mbessa, survive the Ornhorn, these easy engage tools, and, you know, find their angle. But at this point, this game's looking a little chopped. So
I don't think I've heard chopped used like that.
Yeah, we're inventing new things here in Titan Esports Vanquisher Week 1, Game 1 or Game 2. Yeah.
The bleeding edge of lingo here is we're watching TMG just not quite be late enough in the game to end it more than anything else. And they're winning fights really hard, but death timers are low enough. Baron wasn't quite up yet, so don't have everything they need, but they do everything they need to start a fight, and that might be on a Pleb here. The public execution moving back to their team. Good movement, staying alive. Bailout keeping them here for extra seconds of the taunt, staying. This fight cannot end, and finally the shutdown's going to go towards Oprah Winfrey, and not important, just getting ran down, and Hexify is sprung up and continuing to go, and Lian the next target of their ire from the Arc, and Ultimate Spatula, not Spatula, Scapit. Oh my god, I keep trying to say it. Ultimate is finally gonna get themselves a little bit of a kill in the eyes under the dragon. It's gonna be third dragon here. Terry and Oprah Winfrey are alive. I mean, you guys can contest it for the giggles.
Yeah, I mean, they had a slight window there where they found the pick onto Pleb, but Pleb, once again, just doing such a good job surviving, forces them to go for a longer fight than they want. And, you know, that's the death nail. When the orange shows up, it's gonna be too hard to actually be able to survive here in this one. So, yeah, just every fight's looking a little bit more and more rough here for Flash Syndicate, despite how good they started off in this, in those fights in particular. Yeah, it's unfortunate how the game has turned out. You got 1 in 5 Wukong, 0-7 Zehen, so your bruisers that are supposed to be good at scrapping in these kind of chaotic fights are not really strong enough to be able to actually contest the, you know, big upfront damage of the Mbessa and the Yunara.
I didn't even think of this when I first read like the top lane quest. Ornn gets that free level up, which I'm pretty sure means you get essentially 2 free charges, and the Mbessa's gonna find the public execution of Lian, and they're just popped by Hexify. Fortune Thrower is gonna pick it up. Oprah Winfrey was not able to do a whole lot there, and Ultimate's waiting on the wings. They're going to hit this tower. I don't even think they want a blast plane over. They want this Nautilus to know the entire time that they are screwed. Eyes are now onto the Baron for the side of TMG.
Yeah, this one is looking lights out here. Nice engage there, though, from Pleb. Just sees the Hexify land that W, which, I mean, what, slows 85% or something? And just immediately pulls the trigger there on to Lian, who does not have the reaction time to actually get out of there. Now Cone, 1v3. The Ornn's been strong all game. I don't know. I don't think this is enough.
Oh, flashing over the wall. Here comes the teleport. They're wanting this Ornn. Horn is sounded. Staying alive for a little longer. A little misclick on the direction, but they did their job. Distraction in. Shutdown towards Terry. But the Baron is going to start putting in work here with these minions.
Yeah. You know what I think that was from Cone there? I think just testing a new mechanic, potentially. Oh, what if Ornar goes over the wall? So, fortunately, not going to be the case there for Cone. Just gets taken down. But unfortunate flash use there for Hexify. Just has to burn it. Did not respect the Nautilus enough, recalling it out in the open. So, going to be down a summoner spell in the next couple minutes. And there definitely will be some fighting. You have to contest something when this Baron is online for the side of Paladins. So, yeah, we'll have to see if there's any way for Flash Syndicate to find an angle after they burn that flash, because that is the only big summoner spell that's down, besides Cone's flash, and well, you're not really doing anything to an Ornn anyways, unless 1v3, of course.
I feel like the big timer you're looking for there is the Wukong flash specifically as well. Oprah Winfrey's the Nautilus is going to be back up as well, so that's like those are your two big flashes that you can like definitely make a play. You're definitely going to get on top. But you still have to get through that hostile takeover. You still have to get through that Galio. Just to be able to get on top of the Yanara. It's just so many barriers to really start dealing damage that you're not going to be able to do anything. And this Poor as a Hen going to try and immune their way through this. And actually really well used by Batman as they stay alive here, delaying their death for a second. But I don't know if this tower is as safe as you think it is. There's not many minions here to help this die. But Pleb doesn't seem to care at all. They're going to keep it going. As here's the next wave, and that tower's gone, and more gold in the pockets. Could be traded away, though, by this Rise topside.
Yeah, classics and best of gameplay. When you're fed, you just get to ignore some of the rules of the game. It's chill. Lian now going to grab up some plates as well. So good gold going the way of Flash Syndicate. So just in that play alone, I think it was a 3k gold swing over to Flash Syndicate just because of good map movements across in the top side and in mid, of course. So at least they're picking up some gold, so you're seeing some signs of life here, but it's going to come down to these fights, and the fights are just that hard to execute. So, I don't know, it's just tough. It's one of those games where you run out of words, because it's like, yeah. I mean, it's kind of solved, you're kind of just looking for a miracle play, which has to come from a Nautilus, or potentially like a Rizal onto someone who wasn't expecting it, but hasn't been that many opportunities for that kind of play to occur here from TMG.
But in the same case, it's not like entirely out of Flash Syndicate, so we can't really comfortably start talking about it. You also don't want to curse it, because they're trying to make these plays, but they're just not able to find Cone at all. They're looking for the chance, but Cone's doing pretty well, moving around, and as I say that, I might have just cursed them as... Oh, unfortunate Scryer's not going to see anybody, but the call is coming in through to this Dragon. They're going to try and trade Soul for this Ornn topside, but... if I'm TMG, I'm happy to take this play any day of the week.
Yeah, I guess they assume they just can't fight a full 4-on-4, 5-on-5. So just gonna have to give that one up. They're gonna look for a play onto Galio here, but it's gonna be too slow. So they're just gonna commit for these recalls here and play for another fight in the future. So now you have some wiggle room. The Baron is falling off now, so you have about 2 minutes before you're forced to fight. So if you could find a pick before this Baron, you could turn the tide here. So will TMG play safe enough to ensure that no picks happen in the next 2 minutes? That's going to be the question that, we'll see answered very soon enough. Nautilus clearing up some of this vision. This is good preparation here, just to try and find something in the mid lane or towards that Baron. So if they could find a pick right in front of Baron, right before the Baron spawns, which would be a catastrophic mistake, to be clear, there's a chance.
There is a chance.
Cone now.
could be created here. You do have the numbers. Galio is technically out of range, but Terry's going to get caught out. Here comes the Ornhorn too. They didn't even send Galio because Terry's just been caught out. Able to get away here, casting that Realm Warp, but that's actually in the wrong spot. Able to get away over the wall, though, just barely. Well played from Terry to keep themselves safe, but here's the hostile takeover. Forces Leon's flash now as Batman's keeping it going. This could be the miracle play. Galio coming in from the top rope, finds the knockup. Leon picking up Pleb, but now in the back line, Zehen popping that revive, but no one can save them. Batman just gonna get bursted after that 3-man knockup, and Fortress Door keeps it going with that pick, and now Texify going legendary, going God mode on the double kill, and Cone taking the tower on the way out. Flash Syndicate, the door slammed in their face.
Nah, Cone is different this game. I can't even lie. That was a nasty knockup. They just were caught unaware. Flash Syndicate, despite a good start to the fight, once again, not able to seal the deal and find the kills as quickly as they need to actually be able to pull out a bit of an advantage since they're able to kind of preserve some of their HP bars. So, good fight for Flash, but that is kind of the difference in this game. You know, you got the Chemtech Soul, you got the extra golden buffer as well. So there are a lot of things in their favor. So despite some more than favorable start of that fight, it's still going to go the way of TMG. That's yeah, now Baron spawning as well. They don't have any vision in the area. They have that one T ward all the way, but at this point not doing as much work since you don't have that top lane prio. And now it's the waiting game. Are you able to bait a fight, or do you just want to index straight towards that Baron? And looks like they're pinging just to start it immediately before anything bad could potentially go wrong.
Even if you're TMG here, if you have to pull off to start a fight, you have the HP to work with, you have the levels to work with, and Flash Syndicate realizes they have to try and find something else, and you don't have the wave clear really, or the waves to get mid. That Galio's hanging around. Rise just starting to get that wave past neutral here on the bot side of the map, and it's not really going to mean a whole lot here. Leon being the only person holding down the fort in mid lane, and that's 4 members of TMG barreling down, and that calls off this pick, and it's Ornn answering anyway. You can't burst Cone at all. They're too tanky. So every play just feels wrong if you're Flash Syndicate. They're going to go on to Cone anyway, trying to find this, going for the burst as best they can. Knockup going. Terry going to miss the Q, but it doesn't quite matter as the Ornn stuck in a wrong spot there, and here comes the kill, but that's the return play. Oppo in for you, 1 HP. Tower going to fall here. That should be the inhibitor as well for TMG.
Not the worst play, though. That does give them a bit of time and breathing room on the side lane here, and maybe a potential chance for a 5-on-4. So depending on how this starts up, they could find a big opener.
Big pull coming through. Zehen looking for that engage the backline, but Hexpy is just going to pop them in a second. Redemption to put salt in the wound as Fortress Door is going to go on a killing spree on the support, and the Pleb keeps going insane in the backline. Terry getting ran down, finally TPing the fight, but it's just the end. TMG bouncing back after a unfortunate game 1 here to turn the tides, and 29-8 total on the scoreline. 30 minutes into the game, finally bringing us to match point.
Yeah. Great game there from TMG. There were some, you know, kind of scary things, but when you blow up your enemy top laner that hard, probably mentally and physically, it's going to be pretty hard to actually come back from that one. They had some good angles, but there's a lot of peel and survivability on the most important members here of TMG, so it's just kind of difficult. So Hexify going to have a pretty perfect game despite how, you know, up in CS Leon actually was in that one. So very impressive victory, but there were a lot of shenanigans occurring, so I expect Flash Syndicate to bounce back pretty effectively in the next one.
Yeah, Leon put themselves in a good spot, but honestly, really good game of kind of contain is what I usually call it from TMG there. Accepting that Leon is going to be a threat and just making plays away from their Pleb. Really, I think they visited top, twice, and they only needed to go once anyway to put Batman in just a bad situation. Did end up kind of giving themselves opportunities to make plays, and probably would have been great if you just weren't at that scoreline. So the attitude is there, and the pick is maybe ready, but not in lane yet. And honestly, kudos to Cone for just taking that opportunity and sprinting away with it. And Hexify, as you mentioned, going perfect on this Yanara is a problem that you have to answer now. Going into game 3, do we try and answer again? Because game 1, they were put on this AD carry that they needed to make plays. Didn't quite get to do that. Definitely got shut down by jungle in game 1. Now game 2 here, enabled by the support, enabled honestly by some rough play from the Corki Nautilus around like level 5 and 6 and whatnot, and then Hexify ran away with it. What's the right answer here if you're Flash Syndicate?
You don't run it down in lane. That's maybe one.
Okay. Yeah.
You know,
True.
it's one of those go next. You know, it's like
Yeah.
one of those go next. They had a draft where you're playing around Zahen as like a strong side laner that you can rely on to 1v2 in particular, because I didn't get to touch on it because it was just so far gone, but he's good at 1v2ing. That's kind of what
Mhm.
his thing is. But never got to that point. So you had no reliable top laner to kind of structure your kind of 4-1 or 1-3-1 setup. Since you saw Terry was doing decent damage as well, so I felt like a lot of things were working. But since you were missing that crucial piece as like a supplemental side, uh, you know, kind of angle to go for, it just kind of fell apart for Flash Syndicate. And I expect them to bounce back pretty hard in this next one. I don't expect them to just kind of limp, kind of whimper out of this one. So I think we're gonna have a good game 3 here. And as someone in chat pointed out, yes, you cannot pick Zahen again. So they will be safe from that pick in this next one.
Very true. Both teams have the blueprint to victory to the other, so we've got a huge game 3 coming in for week 1 of Vanquisher, and that means you're definitely going to need the popcorn I mentioned. We've got a game 3 here, so we'll see you after that break. welcome back, everybody. Maybe a little kind of too jolly of a tone here. It's game 3 of Vanquisher. Sorry, jolly season is over here, everybody. It's time to take heads as we've
Yeah.
gone to game 3 between TMG and FS, and kind of a stomp from TMG. It took a little longer than some expected, but they got to the goal in the end.
Yeah, just a messy play here from Flash Syndicate. So hoping they lock in for this final game, because if there's anything you don't want, it's to be the team with the same roster coming in and losing your first game of the league for sure. You want to be using that advantage of time that you have while you have it before other teams can kind of catch up for that synergy type of stuff. So hope to see Flash Syndicate kind of bounce back big here. They showed good things in both the games. Unfortunately, the mountain was a little bit too high to climb in that game too. So gonna have to see some adaptation. They did switch back to that red side, so they will have last pick once again. R5 potentially for CB Batman again. First time played that Silas, of course. Now fresh off that as a hen game as well. So we're seeing similar bans so far. Last time they did ban Nocturne as well. So a lot of junglers getting taken off the table, and at this point, a lot of the priority junglers are gone. You still have stuff like Vi that could potentially see its way into this game. Not a great champion right now, but still one of the best engage options from the jungle. Xin Zhao also has been noticeably very missing this series, so I do expect that to also be a potential look here, as we're getting some AD carry bans with Smolder getting banned and Caitlyn getting banned. The pool is shrinking quite a bit. You have stuff like Jhin you could still play. Ezreal, of course, is still an option as well. Just how comfortable are Lian and Hexify on some of these AD carries? I do expect Ezreal to be pretty high priority. If I remember right, Lian has a pretty good Ezreal. So curious to see if that'll be the pick, but it's going to be Nocturne, which means, hey, you got to pick Orianna here, or else you're giving that Nocturne Orianna straight over to the side of Pleb and Ultimate. So I do expect that to at least be the response, but what do you have as a draft prep strategy here if you are TMG? Because you know that they are going to want to take Orianna here just to deny that combo. Do you take your own kind of counter pick here as Flash Syndicate? No, they will take the Orianna. So what did you have prepared in that mid lane? Is it going to be something like an Akali? I could see that potentially being the angle, but it will be a rough early game nonetheless.
Thinking kind of to like some alternatives to the Ori. With Nocturne Ori, you can always bring back the Nico, you can bring back the Annie. You not maybe here in Vanquisher, but Vex can slot in there if you're maybe a little more of an average player. But I wouldn't be surprised to kind of see them drop the mid lane, which seems like they are doing, and just kind of honestly giving themselves time. They're wanting to lock down better AD carry specifically. Braum still up is also very surprising. That does leave yourselves open to something like that Rakan, which they picked up, which is generally a good matchup. You can get in, get out, eat that concussive blow stack from Winter's Bite, and then make your way kind of on through. But that's something I was going to say. Sion is still up. Cone, very good at the tanks. We've been seeing them dominate on throughout the series, and the super tank still being up means it has to get taken away. But I like this continued call out, though, of you have to take away the Xayah. You have to respect that Xayah Rakan. It doesn't really matter how meta Xayah is or isn't. You just have to respect the combo. It's really good. And it would be really good into the Nocturne. So now you're kind of looking like, maybe do you get rid of Kaisa? Do you get rid of like another good Rakan pick? Or do you get rid of that Ezreal you mentioned? Because that usually tells me for TMG, you're not picking a super tank. You're not picking something that can eat the Mystic shots as easily here. And what do you even store? Do you lock down the okay. Wow, they're really quick.
That's a little spicy there of the Vayne pick, of course. So, you know, it's kind of preemptive, but it does do pretty decently into Nocturne as one of the few champions that can kind of get away from it. But there's the Akali I kind of talked about. I had a feeling that would be the angle now. And what is that top lane pick? Of course, this will be a counter pick, and you don't want to pick a super tank because there's a Vayne in the game. So what is the bruiser option? You have stuff like Camille you could potentially play, or of course Renekton, the kind of classic one that you could rely on. And what's your counter pick for Renekton? I could see something like a Poppy being really good here into Renekton, Akali, Tristana. But it's going to be the Jax. They're going to go for a bit more of a carry angle, and I'm not sure. I hate playing Jax in a Braum. It's one of those, like, it just feels bad. So I'm curious to see whether the Vayne is enough to kind of get over that hurdle of having to deal with this Braum throughout the game. But it really is going to come down to, can the Jax survive the early game against the Renekton? Jax has always been a very technical champion, because you have to weave in so many autos throughout the laning phase to build that advantage slowly, whereas Renekton, you kind of slam your face on the keyboard and you kill your opponent laner. So very curious to see how this will go, but Xin Zhao should have some priority early on into the Nocturne. So they should be able to leverage that, especially at that level 4 mark, to maybe try and turn the top lane. And I do expect both junglers to path the same direction in this one in particular, because I think bot lane's going to be a pretty self-isolated lane where they're kind of just looking at each other. Who's going to engage first? That's always going to be the question. And, you know, who's going to mess up first? Because that's one of those volatile lanes. When you have a Tristana, when you have a Rakan, these are champions that like to go in. And then lastly, of course, we got mid lane here. Terry's going to want to shove the hell out of this Akali. Keep her under turret as long as possible until level 6, and then you get to play. So we'll see how that ends up kind of shaking up. But so far, I'm liking Flash Syndicate's comp. It feels a little more cohesive, whereas TMG, once again, explosive composition. They come out to a big early lead. This game could be lights out as soon as possible, but I think Xin Zhao should be enough of a stopgap for that to kind of, for them to actually make it towards that mid game where I feel like they do really excel, as long as they can figure out a way to shut down this Akali.
Yeah, that's going to be kind of the big question mark. It's an X factor I feel like TMG has. Is that Akali? How are you going to play around Paranoia? And at the same time, though, you aren't playing with what I would necessarily consider a proper front line. They've been playing with one this whole series. They've had that Ornn, they've had the Malphite, it kind of always filling that role. And yes, you have Braum who can do that, but just not as long as you really want to, especially when you're looking at what they're dealing with. You're trying to block an Orianna buff, can't do that. Vayne is very happy to deal with your HP stacking, and Jax would be very happy to stack up the passive before taking the free ride over to your AD carry with all that attack speed. So you don't want to necessarily play that super traditional front to back stuff we've been seeing TMG do very well. You are going to kind of want to play in the chaos, play around that Akali, play around that one item spike that Renekton's going to have. And that kind of brings back to what we saw from game 1 with TMG, where they put themselves in a generally good spot for the top side of the map, but now it's really onto Hexify and Fortress Door getting out of this lane. And Vayne sneaks up on you, man. Those Qs do damage. Genuinely, that extra AD does put in the work, and you land, 3 or 4 of those in a lane, you get that empowered on, all of a sudden you're dealing with half HP on Tristana, and everything's out the door. It's gonna be a little bit of walking on eggshells, but if you play with confidence, they can definitely put themselves in a good spot.
Yeah, I'm gonna give the benefit of the doubt here for Flash and the Kid that they could survive the early game and come out with a victory if I had to put a prediction out there. But you said it best. They want to play in that chaos here for TMG, and I mean, I've never seen a team like Renekton, Nocturne, Akali that is going to come and triangulate you as hard as possible. So will they be able to play the map well enough to dodge some of these vision lines to be able to set up plays like that in the mid game? That's always going to be the question here. Avoid grouping as much as possible since you don't want to get shockwaved. That is really like, that would be the disaster, is if your Akali and your Tristana get caught in the same shockwave. So whether they can navigate that is a question only they can answer for this future game. But I'm liking we're at least going to see a lot of action in this one.
Oh yeah, you if teams are not active, if we're not seeing jungle fights based on priority, specifically like you mentioned, Terry needs to keep ultimate under their tower. If I'm not seeing this Orianna move to assist the Xin Zhao, what's the point, right? So that's really going to be your kind of mid-game win con here. If your the Syndicate is making these plays with your mid jungle and really pushing the speed of this game, because you kind of have to conduct against a team that also wants to conduct. So kind of, as I mentioned, lay down the law, make sure you're on your speed, you're on your pace, and you'll be in a generally good spot. But whichever team kind of lets up on the gas first is going to lose, and this could be a precarious position.
Yeah, they are just going to clear up this ward. I mean, minions spawn so fast. I mean, I don't even know if pro teams have really figured out what to do with level 1 yet. It's like, okay, maybe you could get one bush cheese somewhere if someone's like got their pants down fully, but it's just really difficult to actually find a good level 1. I feel like a lot of times now it's just, can you set up a good position in a lane somewhere, like taking control of the bush like you're seeing in the top lane with CV Batman. or you just kind of put a deep ward that you can actually spot the jungler and know the pathing. We are going to have reverse clears here, so not important. Going to be very important for the state of this top lane once he does actually make his way up. Batman wants a long extended trade here against Cone. Very wise with that lethal tempo stacked up.
Spacing there, too, to get away from the Call of the Meek. So no extra health from the minion plus the champion, but good trades already from Batman here, bringing back the pace that we saw from the Silas game for sure, and hopefully they don't get hit by the tower on this push. They've been having consistent success in trying to establish priority in the lane, but haven't really been able to keep themselves away from that tower. So let's hope they do a little better, because I don't know about you, I don't like seeing anyone go 0-7, even my worst enemies.
Yeah, that was definitely a hard game to watch, but you know, when it happens, I think it's fine to make fun of it a little, because it's not going to happen every game, especially for players like these. So, you know, that was the one blip in the radar, but I expect a good game here from CV Batman now.
It's got to be better, and junglers actually distancing themselves in clear, specifically Pleb, really quick on their clear on this Nocturne, which is always a great sign. And I believe it was them able to get the double crab already, and they absolutely demolish, and Ultimate's gonna have to flash away. Those Orianna autos starting to add up here, but good situation here for Terry. You force this Akali flash. You don't have to deal with that at level 6 now. You can keep them locked into the tower. There isn't really an easy access for that. Oh my god, perfect execution. We've had 2 executions in a row. That'll be fun. But it just puts you in a better spot here as this Orianna.
Yeah, did actually commit to just stay for that wave there as well. So a great trade there from Terry. Obviously a little bit of an overextension from Ultimate without, you know, really showing the respect of having the E to actually just be able to, you know, get your couple Q autos in and then E out. So not going to find the kind of survivability you'd expect, but does have the TP, so it's not going to be too much of a worry. But will lose a bit of tempo here, and Not-Important is able to trade out. Ooh. Nice cancel here from Pleb, going for the kill.
I guess, yeah, if you're going flash for flash like that, that's definitely worth it, because you have access with Paranoia, so you're not too worried about getting on top of targets. Following could be a concern, but flash for flash is always good, like you mentioned. And hey, honestly, not too bad.
Yeah, I do like that. You just burn the Orianna's flash. Now it won't be up for the level 6 spike of the Akali, so that actually does give a bit of a window to play around in this one. But, you know, it's still not going to be easy. You have to get through the W here. Xify just going to get knocked up, but you got Fortress Door with a Fortress Door, able to actually just block out on that one, so not going to have to worry too much at all. No CS leads kind of majorly developing. Top lane should be evened up by this wave, so we're seeing a pretty even game so far. Actually, just kind of dead even now. The Scuttle obviously still won't be spawning for another minute here, so we'll have to see which side it actually comes through on. I think I'd rather... if I am Flash Syndicate, I'd rather it show up on the bot side, since you do have the engage pressure of the Rakan. But that's the 50-50 coin flip. We'll see how that actually ends up panning out here.
Oh, I do like this from Batman, just punishing any sort of attempt of Cone to try and get to the wave. It kind of makes you question that bush now forever, and Terry getting punished for their flash. That Q's going to land, so Pleb's going to get close, and do like that flip back there. Terry has to respect Pleb, but the jungler making sure that there's close, and oh no, Batman, don't play too close to the towers, little one. You can't do that.
Limit test, always. Last time didn't pay off. Hey, game 1 looked fine. I wouldn't say great, but looked fine. So now we're seeing a little bit more reserved play here in the mid lane. Don't want to get taken out at a time right before any power spikes actually come through. CV Batman now going for a back, and Pleb seeing the Xin Zhao path towards that top side with that nice deep ward onto the Raptor Pit. Just going to take this time to grab up this first Drake, which TMG has been a team that just has taken a lot of Drakes in this series. So
spot them. Oprah Winfrey's going to have to grand entrance through the wall, but they're going to find the stun and the bomb, putting in a lot of work here. Good contempt of the wall, making sure they can stay alive, trying to flash away. Oprah Winfrey followed up by Hexify, and that's going to be a first blood towards the Tristana.
Yeah, just a little bit too far forward, not respecting the concussive blows from the Braum. Just gets immediately taken down there, so that's going to be a little bit rough for the bot lane here, since you kind of wanted to establish a pretty even lane so you can go towards this mid game and find some success. Level 6 now ticking over for not important, getting that Scuttle Crab as well. No invade, most notably, since Terry's kind of on a bad timer, needs to go for a recall here, only the tier in the inventory, but ends up canceling it, maybe looking for a play on the top side. But no, just going for a little bit of a ward here so you can actually go back. Very interesting to see Terry kind of sacrifice there just for a control ward. When there was a pretty decent window just to recall in that moment.
Been honestly nice, but there isn't necessarily, to my knowledge. I guess you've got the grubs coming up pretty soon. You want to be able to assist with that. Maybe they're, maybe Syndicate's playing under the assumption that they don't want to contest that. They don't want to deal with maybe the Collie. Maybe they want to try and make a bot play at the time instead. But there's a lot of options for both teams right now. The game isn't blown open yet. Yes, there's a little bit of a gold lead kind of growing in bot lane, specifically from that kill, but really it's the farm still an advantage of Batman, who's been very good about that when they've not died to towers. And here's the Dominus. Finally, Cone had enough of getting smacked by the lamppost, flashed away. Batman trying to stay alive, but not a whole lot you could do here. Here comes the fear, and that's all she wrote here for poor old Jackson. The limit test finally costing them dearly.
Yeah, no ward there to actually be able to get a ward jump out. Probably the only chance of survival there was the minion wave coming in a little bit sooner. But it was well played around by Pleb to actually find that pick immediately with that Paranoia. So that's always a great sign for your team, is when Nocturne Paranoia, the first one, is successful. So very well played here from TMG. And they come out to now like just a 600 gold lead. So that is pretty significant. So I think they're feeling pretty comfy in this game, considering they had some onus on them to make some plays, and they've made some plays, and now they're making another one.
Now here's going to Terry, just putting a little damage in there. I don't even... Did that R2 land? Or just
I think
do
it did,
no damage?
but it just does no damage, because I feel like they made it so it just does more execute threshold damage stuff instead, just to nullify some of the strength of the champion, so... But that heavy trade will not result in grubs, however, so since it didn't actually do too much at all, so Terry's just going to use that plant to heal up, and they're still going to grab the grubs on this top side. Dragon isn't spawning for 2 minutes, so Flash Syndicate more than happy with just taking these grubs as they come, so another set here to play around, just like in Game 2.
Part of that is definitely Pleb burning the ultimate to get the play topside. It's a give and a take. Get Renekton a good lead, get myself a kill here as Nocturne. But you're going to cost the grubs, and they're trying to make a play, but it's completely read here by Oprah Winfrey and Leon, and they're able to dissuade this gank, but you're still dealing with that paranoia. You're still looking at this dragon here in a minute and a half, and really the only summoner that I'm looking at that's kind of down that you might be able to abuse is if you find Hexify beforehand.
Yeah, and I think that's a pretty hard ask to come through with the barrier and the exhaust going to be up before that window actually comes to fruition. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit difficult to find that. Terry just going for a full clear on this wave, having a big push, so it doesn't have the freedom to immediately walk and help Braum actually establish a nice vision line here. There are 2 control wards for this Braum to chunk through without getting contested at all. So there's definitely a window here to engage on the Braum if they could find it. Nocturne not in the area, but does have the Paranoia to join, so still should be within an arm's length away to actually be able to join this fight if it does occur. But Xin Zhao clearing up, it's going to be a little more chill than immediately thought of. 29 seconds now on this Drake. Bot lane, going to be pretty even, both 80 carries just pushing out here. And yeah, I think it's just going to be a Xin Zhao primarily contesting, but there is a bit of a man advantage here on the bot side.
Another big thing too is Tristana did finish up that Stormrazor, so big item completion, as well as that pot in their inventory. I believe that's the adaptive force one. TMG's planning on contesting this dragon. They want to fight, and not important here. Trying to get early on this read. Here comes Nocturne. Here comes the whole cavalry. They want to cause this fight. Fortress Door is going to be walking maybe into their own death here. Going to miss that winner's bite. Here comes Oprah Winfrey finding the quickness, though. Knockup coming in from the Glitch Fisher. Here comes the rest of the cavalry trying to find this re-engage. Pleb couldn't quite get on top of there. And the ultimate getting burned here from Xin Zhao. Keeping it going, and no one's quite finding the damage yet. And that's going to be the Buster Shot just to stop the fight. But the HP bars feel like they favor Syndicate here.
Yeah, and also Syndicate didn't have to burn the Shockwave either, so they still have a very strong utility piece here.
Too close. Shockwave burned. You mentioned it. It's used. The Fortress Door getting away, and so is Ultimate, but that's some flashes used.
Yeah, just a lot of summoners and resources burned for both of these teams to try and get some sort of edge to be able to get this dragon, but it's not going to come true. I will say Terry has to be a bit careful, but since Akali's calling off the play, it's not going to matter as much. Just going to be able to force down Hexify and Fortress Door. Fortress Door has to be careful. Next QW might just kill him, honestly, so we'll be able to survive out this one. So we're going to go again for this Drake in just a bit.
Gonna give it another college try once everyone's got their
Yeah,
at least their ultimates.
Your jungles,
Oh.
get your ultimates. All right, we're back. This is
We're,
exactly what's about to happen.
Buckle up, folks. We're gonna be in a long one here if it stays on this pace. I don't mind it here. These teams really want to make sure they've got everything, and the driving force from this game, it could be Cone, but I feel like Batman kind of in isolation has been doing fairly solid work on this Jax. They've got that Ignite to be able to provide some sort of threat to Cone. Like, you can't quite get away with 1v1ing me if I had a TP, but still kind of a dicey situation here. Batman playing pretty scared, but I call it confidently scared.
Yeah, it's like, oh, if you face check me, you do take it down.
Just like this, and they're gonna pop the ultimate's dominance coming through. Cone walking away, but they're up a level. Stun used, and Ignite's gonna force the flash from Cone, followed from Batman, and flash for flash, Ignite for Ignite. Both play. I saw Address you type this. I agree. Everyone's playing really scared right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a good look there from CU Batman, but you mentioned the lane, the level advantage, which actually did come into play there. Just the extra tankiness from stats.
I'm gonna get into paranoia. Pleb finally getting the vision, and Grand Entrance burned through the wall, and there's the follow through from Hexify with the rocket jump, and now not important in the wrong spot, has to flash away, but they're flashing across Fortress Door, burning the Crescent Guard, but that's not gonna stop a rocket jump. Another kill collected, a double kill for Hexify. Now it's on a Terry trying to get away, and perfect execution getting burned. Of course, not doing a lot of damage. It's still level 1. Terry's staying alive, but the Dragon going in favor of TMG here. His Ultimate Spatula might be the victim of Terry. Hold up, going back in. Fortress Door here, missing the Winner's Bite, missing the Glacial Fissure. The fancy feat from Terry, staying alive.
Yeah, well played there from TMG. Just way too far forward. The Paranoia committed, and they just didn't have knowledge of how many people were actually on this bot side, not expecting the Akali to be there as well. And they're able to find not important. I mean, really well played here from Fortress Door in particular, showing off the mastery of the Braum here, which, hey, you know, every champion, no matter how simple, there are little micro things you could do better. And hey, if you got 98, level 98 or whatever mastery now they call it, I'm sure you got some tricks up your sleeve.
You gotta, I mean, agreed. You gotta, Braum's got fun little stuff. I always like seeing people use the use Unbreakable, the shield, to kind of get around the map. That movement speed's nice. And they're maxing it first to get that resistances. Hold up that Counter-Strike. Ate the stun from Cone. Has to pop Dom to stay alive. Now Fortress Door is going to get on Vision here. And not important, showing up as well. Cone charging that up, but trying to bait into the fight. Cone getting low. Here's Batman now in the wrong spot, trying to get away. Stun going to pop here in a second, but the good Counter-Strike, keeping them alive for just a second, but Pleb, Inevitable, finds the kill, and now Terry here in the fight, forcing Cone to get away, along with Fortress Door staying scared. Now Hexify coming back, TMG going for the re-engage. It's finally paid off here. TMG sending more people at the right time, and Syndicate cannot get their foot in the door.
This is getting away from them now. Good rotation there from Fortress Door. You're, you know, just perfectly timed to actually be able to join that, just to force CB Batman to get traded down. And I mean, with that, that's a big lead that you had in the top side, I felt, and that is going to get nullified a bit. And everything so far is answering TMG, so I have to assume at this point they are in that driver's seat. They have the pressure to be able to engage very comfortably. 6k gold up with the aggressive team comp of the Nocturne, Renekton, Akali, with the Tristana as well on top of that. So they should have no problem engaging these fights at the advantageous positions that they have right now.
Advantageous positions.
I say that, but you know, it is a 0-0-0 Akali. But trust me, that is merely a facade. That is still a very strong Akali at this point. Just missing some Dark Seal stacks for some Pepper.
As well as like you've got that one. You've got the gun. The gunblade is back, man. The bane of my existence, back in the game, and Akali loves to see that item there. It's a very strong one item burst, so she is very strong, kind of deceptively so, and that's exactly why we're so deceived. We missed it. Ultimate is just gonna pop Terry. We get to see that back on a little bit of a flashback here. Terry's just gonna underestimate the bush, underestimate the wave, finds a good shockwave, but it's a done deal. We mentioned, yeah, deceptively strong. A little bit of a weird snapshot on the damage, but still, good kill from Ultimate.
Yeah, well played there now. Cone getting taken low. Does have the Dominus here to try and bait Batman, which has kind of been the way Batman has died so far, is just a bit of a Dominus bait here. So curious to see if that ends up being the case again soon enough. Trying to extend the advantage, because I feel like at this point, if you're one of the solo laners here for Flash Syndicate, you feel the game slipping away. You want to make that big play to actually kind of get your team back in this one. And you know, if you could find a kill onto either Hexify or Pleb, that could be a really big opening here. 400 gold is the bounty here for both of them. So there is definitely a window, but it's not going to be so simple.
No, it's gonna be another game of picking and choosing. And another thing, you could kind of play around that vein, and Cone's going to get jumped on, trying to find this pick. Not important, showing up a Cone, able to get the double slice and dice away. Now here comes the TP, here comes Pleb on the top, and it's Cone picking up Batman with the help of Pleb, and Ultimate is just putting salt in the wound again. It's the common theme, a good great entrance, keeping them alive, quickness to get out of the fight. Not important, though. You're running the wrong way. It's maybe trying to execute. Ultimate's going to be going for this chase, and not important. Trying to stall it as long as they can might be possible. Nice. Well,
nice execute there. Still rough to not have your jungler on the map, but I guess better than giving them even more gold there. And, you know, I talked about, you know, CB Batman has died to Dominus, getting Dominus baited. And, I mean, it's a tale as old as time now. It just happened again. It's a little unfortunate here. Because I do think he's been playing this game well. It's just, you know, going for some aggressive trades when the Dominus gets popped, and everyone else knows that that's the timer to actually go for this top laner. So
this is bad. This is dry. Back to dry. It's a dry game to lose here for Syndicate. You got it on the head. It's so hard to kind of sit and watch and play this game, because like everything you do is just kind of wrong because you're behind enough to where like enemy team's just gonna make any sort of counterplay they need to beat you, but you're not like out. There's still something you can do. It's just gonna be wrong. Like Batman here is trying to do their best to get on the tower, but now they're gonna take tower shots, and all of a sudden you're kind of done. Even though Jax is fairly strong, you kind of have to look for a reset. You have to call for help and start to try and set up this gank.
3v1. There's no way Cone is able to live this one, right? So we'll have to see. They are probably just going to go for the dive here, because they are, as I said earlier, a little bit in a desperate scenario. And they're not going to actually corral the Renekton to stay. So really will just be a free dragon here for the side of TMG. And their play is done and dusted on the top side. At least they get a turret for their hard efforts in the top side. And yeah. It's a little bit rough.
Especially if you're, say, like Leon here on this vein. There's nothing you can do. You haven't actually done anything wrong yet. It's the worst part. You haven't done anything wrong. Your teammates haven't necessarily done a whole lot wrong. It's just been TMG kind of catching you off guard, sending more and sacrificing more. And here could be a good play coming in from Syndicate. They're going to find a good shockwave counter-strike combo, but Ultimate's still making their way out of there. Fortress able to flash over the wall. They cannot catch up, and that's probably the best play they're going to find in the next, like, 3 minutes.
And they don't even get any gold out of it. It was a good look from the side of Flash Syndicate, but that's more resources burned, less things they can contest in the next minute or so. And, I mean, a lot of things that they're trying seem to be close to working, but they just can't get over that finish line just yet. So this is, I think it's just a slippery slope at this point. They need to find a big play somewhere along the map to kind of really hard swing the game back towards them. And with the Baron up, I have to imagine it has something to do with that. But I talked about it earlier. If they're walking, if Flash Syndicate has to walk into
Terry.
TMG, it's a bad spot.
Terry. And that is the death certificate finish? Not quite. They got the flash away, and Ultimate was waiting for them to walk out of that bush, but still, you lost your flash now. Now you're in Oriana with no flash, walking into a possible Baron fight here. As Rakan's can actually face check this Braum and able to get away, but still losing space, losing vision, and it's just getting darker and scarier.
Yeah, Baron is now started up here. You got the Tristana, you got the Nocturne as well, so this should be a pretty fast Baron. Baron is tankier than it was in previous seasons, but I don't think that's going to matter much when you have just free hitting constantly. So they are going to look for a play on Cone, but will they actually be able to find it?
Popping Ghost, put into the game into their own hands, gets the vision, and that should be Cone popping. First kill, hey! It's a shutdown for Leon.
Hey, Leon has to carry this game. That's just what's going to happen. First kill, you're only down 2 items against your opponent AD carry. It'll be okay.
I was having a friend of mine kind of talk about like AD carry, and they're like, it's so team oriented now, and this is like the antithesis of that, where you're doing everything like perfectly fine, and it's just not working. Oprah's getting corralled here by Ultimate and Pleb, and abandoned by Not Important because they can't help either, and they're gonna face check the Pleb now. All of a sudden, Ultimate's on the way. Here comes Fortress Door 2, and that's gonna be all she wrote here for Not Important, as Oprah Winfrey is able to teleport away.
Very interesting sequence there. I guess getting overconfident here from the side of Not Important since your support is in that bush, and just gets kind of caught out in a terrible position, tries to survive it all, but I guess lucky Oprah didn't kind of try and commit so they don't lose 2 members, just the one. Now CB Batman on the bot side is going for a 2v1. I think they want to look for a play in mid with this Rakan as well. But they need to look for it pretty soon, because the bot lane is getting shredded.
Gotta do something soon. You're running out of stuff to give here for Syndicate. Frustration is mounting, the turrets are running out, the gold is already out of your hands. Let's not even talk about the lead. You can't even get access to camps, so it's never going to be your lead again. It's got to be a miracle, as we mentioned from Leon here, as the towers, those crystals do so much damage, man.
Yeah, the crust, as a lot of people are calling it. Definitely an interesting mechanic. I don't know how I feel about it. Just like the ease of access to just gain 160 gold is not really my favorite, but you know, it's in the effort of speeding up the game and adding some comeback mechanics that are not as uninteresting, uninteractive. So I understand the idea, and I think it at least changes how you want to play the map a bit. Oh, let me play for crust here, which I never thought I'd be saying in a million years.
I mean, it feels like it's both it's like a catch-up mechanic because anyone can split push now with it, but also at the same time, like, didn't they make towers tankier to compensate, and then they made them squishier as well? So it's like
they don't want you killing a turret in one go, but they do want you hitting the turret often, kind of thing. It's like a weird balance they're trying to strike here.
Yeah.
We do have the drag coming up, and this is Soul. It's going to be an uncontested Soul, of course. So we're playing for Elder Flip at 30 minutes. We'll see how that goes.
We'll have to see how that goes, because I mean, if you're not even attempting to approach, did they even approach any of the dragons at all? Maybe the first dragon.
No, they traded the other side every time.
Batman. Okay. It's just not your wave, man. That tower is not real. It's not safe. Towers aren't safe.
Hey, you know, there was like a non-zero chance he lives there. Not anything else, though. Oh, now they're just going for diving mid-wave.
They're going to dive the mid-wave. It's on to the poor Terry, as here comes the grand entrance, but it's a little too late now. Oprah has to flash away with the quickness, and now they're out of tools. They don't have Shockwave. They don't have your Batman either, and it's a Crescent Guard to stay alive for like maybe a quarter of an extra second. Oprah Winfrey getting targeted. It's Leon, and they're flashing away too. It's double kill, picked up by Hexify. Inhibitors falling. 25 minutes in the game. No Baron needed. This is TMG's game here.
I mean, think about it like this. AD carry must be so OP. The only kill came from AD carry, so obviously that's just how the roles have to break down here. But there isn't much that we haven't said in this one. TMG commanding victory, driest game 3 of all time, just completely dominating in this third one. And Flash Syndicate's gonna feel the burn in this first week here. And as I said, they are coming off of a split where they did pretty well. They only lost to the eventual winners of the league, and they have the same roster. So I would personally expect more from them coming out of this one, but there were some unfortunate, is what I'll call it, plays throughout these last 2 games, and it really put them in a hole that they couldn't figure out a creative enough angle to actually dig their way out of. So it's just a little bit rough. And, draft could play some route, but I actually, as I said in the start of this game, I think Flash should have a good time in that draft. It is how you play the map, I think, that they need to figure out. The game has changed a lot, so it makes a lot of sense. Your jungler's not the OP one anymore. It's still a great role, because you can do whatever you want, but that's not the role that just commands the entire game. So not important, making a good play is much less impactful than it was last season. So we're seeing a lot more on those solo laners, and we talked about how, as far as ranks are concerned, TMG Paladin has their kind of number in that, as far as like how many games they've played and like what actual tier they're at, and it kind of showed them the hands were there to be able to win these very micro heavy fights.
It looked like that kind of outside of lane, especially. They were moving almost snappier. They were getting caught on vision often, especially looking at game 1, which is I would call like the best game to look at if you want to look at how these two teams compete, where TMG would get themselves into positions, but the synergy and the experience of Syndicates was able to kind of pick that off, understand the flanks, and make the necessary adjustments. But when they weren't playing in a kind of even and ahead game state where they felt comfortable, they weren't able to get their foot in the door at all. I do kind of agree with the kind of call outs from all of the preseason announcements, all of the predictions for this week, as well as people talking about in chat. You kind of live and die by Batman. When you have that kind of sadly, I hate using this word when talking about people, but liability in top lane, when you're just falling behind that much, almost kind of feeling automatically, it's really rough to play, and it's rough to take a whole lot away from the game. Even us here in the booth, we don't have a whole lot to talk about. It just kind of ran away, and we're sitting here waiting for it to end, waiting for the necessary stuff to come through. And congrats, of course, not taking away from TMG. Played phenomenally, put themselves in that spot where it was just a matter of time. So congratulations to them, and a great way to start week 1 as a new squad.
Yeah, a little bit of a black hole occurred in that series in particular, and as it does, it sucked up everything left from Flash Syndicate in this one. So unfortunate, but we always have a lot more weeks. There's, I believe, 7 weeks after this, and then we move on to playoffs. So definitely, unless the format's changed, I'm not sure. Usually it's 8 weeks of regular, and then you move on to playoffs with for Vanquisher in particular, like a top 16 pseudo bracket. We'll see if that ends up being the case. Again, I'd have to double check, but we still got a lot of Vanquisher to be played. This is still week 1, so we're gonna see you again next week. So stay tuned for that.
100%. And kind of with that being the case, one last little shout out. First off, Shavam in the booth. Thank you for kind of running everything, observing and producing. Lots of work. Thank you for that. Thank you, Golden Gad, for kind of introducing me here to Titan. Thank you, Titan, for giving us the chance to cast these series, and the players and teams for putting this on. We'll see you all next week.